the Lord's Cupboard and the Family Promise, which when I hear her speak about it, I learn something new every time. So there's a lot going on with those ministries and a lot of ways to help. It doesn't have to be, a long time commitment. Even from the items that they need, that's a service. Bringing in some of those things that supply the cupboard, from packing those bags, being here for the meal, which I know many of you are here to serve that way, which is just an awesome thing to see going on. So I love that. And I was amazed at, too, her statistic about the homelessness in Oconomowoc. You think about that in more inner cities, bigger cities, and it exists all over. And I see that, too, within the school district. I teach in a public school, and there's this woman friend of mine who retired, and she's a pastor's wife. Her name is Jan Franz, and she had a vision. She's had this vision for a really long time to help those kids that fall through the cracks. We have several ways to help in our district, and a lot of times there's, if you're SWG, special needs, you fall into a plan, an IEP, and so we service them based on that plan by law. There are some kids that in the public schools in this Waukesha county, you don't think about it as much as you would in Milwaukee, that are struggling, and their test scores, there's a direct correlation to that. So her vision was to start a project called the Oasis Project, and I don't know if anyone has heard of it. She started just in one school building, and that was in Cushing Elementary in Delafield, and she basically identified kids who are really struggling with reading skills, and started up a free tutoring after school, and it's grown. They have over 75 kids. We're now into the whole district. Her vision is to open that up to other school districts as well. So each year it's been this growing process. And so unfortunately this year I cannot make it work to tutor. You would think, okay, after school for 45 minutes, could you make that happen? Well, the schedules that I have with my kids and the opportunity or things that I have going on, it just doesn't work out. But there's all awesome ways to serve, I pray. And so that we keep that idea in mind, and we keep praying for those things that go on, and that's a service. So there's lots of ways, and maybe I'll go back to that tutoring in the future. Also, they need little prizes. So when you get these little toys and things that are so not needed anymore at home, I box them up and I give them to the tutoring center. So if you have that mindset, you keep thinking about those ways, all of those things add up to service. So that's just one example of the different ways that it can come together for one bigger project. The website of Oasis?
No, the website of St.
Oh, do you want to?
I can ask you if that's...
Sure.
So talking of other ways of service, I said last week or the week before something about how there's a whole list of ministries at St. Paul's. And so if you were listening to me about that, I said the wrong spot. So ignore that. Okay, so here's St. Paul's website. And if you go over and hover over church, you'll see it drops down and gives you a whole list of stuff. And down there you'll see ministries. This is the step that I missed. And so you go, oh, okay, I want to know about ministries. So you come down here and you see there's Dominican Republic, Lord's Cupboard, Family Promise, and something else that you have to scroll down for. And so you think those are the choices for ministries. But instead, if you just click on the word ministries, like I just almost did, boom, there you go. Ministry opportunities. So this is a list of, I'm going to guess it's probably some, a lot, ministries available at St. Paul's. So you could, you could be in the adult choir, altar flowers, altar guild, alumni, athletic committee, all in alphabetical order, and all of them have a contact information, whether it's an individual. So brass choir, if you're interested in that, get a hold of Pat Worker. If you want to help out with the bookstore or the bulletins, contact the church office. So all of them are going to have stuff that maybe you didn't even know. Did you know that we have a copy volunteer at the school? come and make copies.
Others like we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Maybe we
You
need to
know,
update it.
something you can do, or you can help out in the early childhood center. You can be an elder, journeyman, ladies' aid, and so forth. Anyhow, a whole list of opportunities. So if you say, yeah, boy, this Bible study here has really inspired me. I really want to help and serve somehow. Gosh, I just don't know how though. Well, my guess is you'll find something here. And if not, call the church office and say, hey, I have a very particular skill set that isn't listed here, and they'll find something for you to help with. We'll get back.
So then as we went from smaller, we had Carol speak 2 weeks ago and it's not a small thing, but I'm saying for something that's a one-on-one ministry, that we went to something a little larger. And our idea was then to go on to something global, even though there's ways to support right here. And so I'm going to zip through this because we already showed this last week. So Dominican Republic, and we kind of went through some of the preparation in the church. We were so thankful for the church support from both of the churches. We had teamed up with Shepherd of the Hills, and so that's some of the other people that you're seeing on here.
And as we're blasting through, if you have any questions or something you thought about later on, after last week, and you wanted to find out about, just shout them out, or oh, there's one right over here.
How'd you know that? I had to ask Kurt about Bible study and how you approached that when you were there.
An excellent question.
This is actually kind of a picture that I landed on here. So are you talking about like our team, like, okay,
Our team, or how you shared the word with the young people.
the other people? Okay,
Yeah.
so there's two categories. One was our group, our small group of 9. And we were assigned before we left a certain couple of times that we would lead even our kids. So Nathan was 7th grade going into 8th grade, and Rachel was going into sophomore year. And so we were all assigned either a morning devotion or an evening devotion. To prepare. So, and we, what was interesting about the Bible study time was kind of cool because we had ideas, and I had the kids plan it. I said we wanted to be from everyone's perspective, to help every day, get us going, and at night settle us down and get us, thinking about what we had experienced that day. And so we each had ideas before we came, but what was kind of cool was they changed, or we modified them as they went because of what you experience. And so it just really fit. Whenever Kurt was on, that was like, oh my gosh, it was God. It was totally God, knowing that this is the order we needed to be in and how that was going to happen. So we did have a little bit of internet that we could use if we needed to plan something different. But it became emotional at times because people really poured out their hearts to what they were experiencing and feeling, and it was really cool. And even to see Nathan as a 7th grader try to lead, the adults, they appreciated hearing from a 12-year-old, what was he experiencing in all of this, and how did he put his twist on things. And so, right. Then, I don't know if you want to speak, we were led by Donnell on how to help, when we went in, so.
Yeah, we didn't do a lot of sharing like Bible study kind of things with the residents. Basically, there was one of us in the group, I believe, that would have been actually able to do that because of the whole Spanish thing, and so that would have been Charles. So that part was primarily left to the missionaries who were doing that. We didn't really jump in on that at all. The one time that we did participate in something like that is, and we'll talk more about, is that Konani, right? Yeah, Konani, which is one of the state homes, I guess you'd call it, institutions, that we went and visited. And so they had, Danielle and Jamie Lynn had planned that they were going to do a particular activity, Bible study kind of a thing, with the residents that we were going to go visit. It was pretty cool. So we're driving in the van on the way there, and it's kind of a long ways. And we're probably, halfway there or something. And all of a sudden, Danielle looks over Jean and says, do you have my bag with, all the Bible study stuff in there? No, I thought you had your, no, look all over the van, yeah, no bag. So basically they just put their heads together and we're like, okay, gotta come up with a Bible study. What can we do with what we have? And they turned out really awesome.
Well, and they used us in part of the skit. So they did a Zacchaeus. Was it Zacchaeus? Yes,
Zacchaeus.
It was Zacchaeus and Jesus. And they just said, hey, we want you to be this part. We want you to be this part. And so we were involved with these kids. Now these kids, this was actually the part where they were young adults. They were adults.
Right.
And they were very, a lot of them were severely disabled. And they enjoyed it so much. I mean, the joy, I just looked around and I went, oh my gosh, like how Danelle was making a connection. She just went with these people and they loved it. And you could tell they don't get that very often in the government-run institutions. So that's different than what we experienced in the group home, and that's why this is existing, to show that these people matter, because people with disabilities in the Dominican Republic were nothing years ago, and still they're working on that. The Ramona that I showed you with the rape in her mouth, she was found chained to a tree. Her parents didn't know what to do with her, so they would leave her chained to a tree. And she remembers that. And when we get to the church section there, she was trying to tell my daughter the whole thing during church by motioning. She was motioning outside, and she was saying, it was almost like the story of how God has helped her. She's happy in this church, and she's happy, and she's praising God, but she was showing my daughter Rachel by pointing outside and motioning on her hands what had happened to her in the past. Rachel said at the end of the service with big eyes, I think Ramona was, because Rachel knew the story ahead of time because they prepped us a little bit on each of these disabled people, and she said, I think she was trying to tell me her story because the way she was motioning. So it was, we experienced so much emotion there too, but the love of Jesus shone through. It was so awesome to see that. So.
Does that answer?
We did sing in Spanish, though. We did sing in some songs.
We sang.
So we already went through our prepping and some of the food here. Like we said, there's some of the chicken and the plantain, the sausage, and then the accommodations where we stayed. Some free time. And then we got into the school, and so this is where we were going down the hill, getting to the stairs, yeah. The stairs, that's the backyard of the group home. And then there's the front yard of the group home. And so it's changed even more since we've been there in about a year, a little over a year and a half almost here. Things have, progressed at each little thing. They've made some improvements. Again, as Kurt said last week, part of the goal was because they were going to be inspected by the government to say, how is this facility? Do we allow it? Because the government had to approve and allow that they were going to take 6 kids and try to do something like this. And what the Lutheran churches are trying to show is that, look, you give these people love and care and allow them to use their talents, and they can make a difference. They can be a human being like everyone else, and that had to change in the people's minds, in the government's minds. So these were the kids again, and I just introduced you last week. There's Randy and Moises. Junior on the left, there's Ramona, the one that I was talking about, found chained to a tree. And then we have, what's his name? Frances and Stephanie. So those were the 6 main ones that we spent time with. And there we are bringing in some of the supplies that we gathered for the school. And we showed you a little bit about the frames. And again, the purpose is to make this place look nice. It looked pretty beat up and run down, and so to make sure it looks clean and that they feel that these kids are safe here, standing in the hot sun, getting them ready to paint. And then we were talking about painting in the rooms and how how we started out looking, yellowish. They wanted to freshen up the rooms and make it look nicer. So this is Pastor Aaron from Shepherd of the Hills. And then Roger, both of these two people are some of his congregants. This is a father-daughter team, and so this is the room that we were talking about where we were painting, and now today, I put a picture in here. It is now, this is not one from our trip, it is now a store. And they're teaching the residents life skills of selling money, supplying, sometimes they make things for the store, and so the surrounding community area can come in and purchase items. I don't know what this is. It's a mannequin. So prior to this, and then I said that the new windows were coming in. The bars came down and they put in new windows while we were there. So that was awesome to see our donations go to that. Some more of the bed frames. This guy is a neighbor boy who just constantly was over there. Miguel Angel, his name was. And he just was always into our stuff. And he just wanted to be around everywhere. So, what I was amazed with was when you go to the government institutions, things are so locked up. You're there, you're in these rooms, and you can't go anywhere else. The kids here, they just can go down the street. They're able to go. They know to come back. They're in the neighborhood. They're just down by the church. They're back over here. They're around. And so you let them be people, and they, respond.
Miguel is one of those kids that you get to know a little bit, and you walk away and you say, okay, that kid is either going to be president or in jail. I'm not sure which way it's going to go, but it's going to be one of those.
So then we were showing you the middle picture, showing one of the rooms that we painted red. And then another one that we painted blue. So we were proud of, some of the things that we wanted to do physical work. So going in, we thought, okay, here we are, we're gonna do some work. What do you need us to do? And the philosophy down there wasn't work, 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 work. It was, yes, you're here to help a little bit, but you're also here to spend time with the people. And a lot of times in America, we're so busy on the task, and we're task-oriented instead of people-oriented. And so by looking at how they were dealing with the residents and how we learned so much to bring back. Again, I said that last time, how much, and I know you know this too, Carol, you learn so much from being somewhere. You feel like you're taking away more than you're giving.
Can I ask a quick question there, Cheryl?
Yeah.
So the training that you had prior to being there from most ministries, was it? Did
Yes.
you feel that it was broad enough or specific enough, or you wish there would have been, after you were there, that you thought that was very helpful to know in advance, or any feedback on your training?
I'm gonna let Kurt answer because I'm totally a culture person and have traveled and know what to expect. But
And so the question was, did we feel that the training that we had from most ministries before we left, was that enough? Was that deep enough, broad enough? Did that adequately prepare us to go down there? So, I guess I would say, given, we'll start with nothing can adequately prepare you to go down there. So, given that, yes, it was great. Like we said, the large parts of this Bible study are based on the Bible study that we did pre-trip. So we wound up meeting, at the end it was weekly, but we met with the group for a couple of months ahead of time from going down there. And we did as much as we could to prepare, like what are we going to be doing actually when we get down there? Answer, you find out when you get there. No, what are we going to be doing when we get down there? It could be this, could be that. You'll see. No, what? Okay. So it's just, that's how it is. That's a culture thing that we're not, Cheryl said, we're not really wired for that here.
I'm a planner, and that drove me nuts. I kept going, well, how can I plan? Like, what am I supposed to bring? Like, how can I plan?
Well,
But,
you might wind up pouring some concrete Okay, so here's the thing. I don't pour concrete. I've never poured concrete once in my life. But I know somebody that's really good at it. And so if that's something that you're going to, if you say that's what you're going to do when you're down there, then I'm going to go hang with him for a while and say, look, you know, and as a professional, I know this is going to maybe sound a little insulting, but teach me what you know. You have about 2 weeks to go, you know, just so that I have a shot at it, man. But, yeah, no, you maybe do that, maybe not. You know, so that part of things was, I mean, right there, you know, you learned something about what you're going to run into. We learned, the Bible study did go into quite a bit about, you know, what you're actually there for. So, and I forget the word she used, but Mary said this about, Mary did not say this. Carol said it, and she'll tell me what the words she used was. But it's like you're not a problem solver, or you're not a care.
You're not a caregiver.
Yeah, caregiver. You're not a cure giver. You're not going to cure somebody as a Stephen minister. You're going to care for them, and so important distinction. And you know, you may not quite realize that when you're going into it, and so that training is going to provide you, you know, that mindset. The training that we had, you know, you're not going down there to fix anybody, right? Because that says that somebody is not right, and you're better, and you're not, and they aren't, you know. They're happy, and so you're down there to minister to them in whatever way you can, not try to fix somebody, right? Which is, you know, maybe an unconscious bias that you may, you know, I have a reasonably decent job, and they get by on $1 a day. So, you know, does that make me better? No, not really. It means I have more stuff, and I have more concerns, and they have less stuff and are happier. So,
When we went to Haiti for years, I was putting it off because I am pathetic with languages. My kids laugh at me. Everyone laughs at me in my languages. And I discovered that it made no difference. We learned how to communicate, sign language, other ways, and so on and so forth. So it isn't that you have to have particular skills or anything else. What you just need is the love to show them. Kids catch on to that. And they communicate with you and will grab you by the hand, take you to where they need to go, and point, and we figure out what needs to be done. Don't let anything like that stop you.
now if you're going to be a full-time missionary and stay down there for 4, 5, 6 years, you should probably learn the language. But yeah, you can get by just fine with about 6 words.
So I'm just going to respond to the original question too, but the actual most ministries was awesome. They did have a lot of materials, but it was up to our group to make sure we met. I mean, most ministries wasn't going to force us to meet. They wouldn't know how long we would meet. And Pastor Aaron was our leader on that, and he made sure we met. And he made sure we did the Bible studies together. And if we didn't do it as homework ahead of time, we did stuff together, and we felt, and I remember Sandy, one of the ladies who went, she felt so thankful for that, because it was like we already knew the personalities of people, and what you can do is try to avoid certain situations. If you think, oh, that's going to be an area where I'm not going to do well with that person, you just avoid that. We knew that ahead of time, therefore our team was strong, and so that's what I really liked about the preparation. That they were able to give us those materials ahead of time, and that we came into it knowing each other instead of learning about, because by the end of the week then you finally know somebody and then you're done. So this was great that they prepared us. So last week we zipped through these. This is just showing some of the hanging out with the residents. Having some time to spend, and then we were giving them some gifts that we brought. And we were telling you about Ramona and how she had this cell phone and her batteries died within the first day or two, and so she's pointing. She knew, she brought it to Kurt, and she's pointing up up, go back home up to your little seminary and get some batteries for this. He's going out. And he's trying to tell her in English in a little bit of broken Spanish, like, no,
I know
not
Spanish. Mañana. I think that's tomorrow. So mañana. I'm not going all the way up the hill to get batteries, come back down. I'm going up there tonight. I'll bring you batteries tomorrow. It's, we're almost ready to leave. Mañana. Finally got it figured out. Okay, we're all cool. Good.
This is one of the most touching pictures that I have, but you'd have to know the story. And Randy is the one that it covers his face a lot, so you'll see hand over the eyes. It's a little bit of autism, and there was a fidget spinner craze during that time where you had these little fidget spinners and you're spinning them, and so we had bunches of those and we brought them, and the residents had them. Well, I guess some of the neighborhood kids were trying to take Randy's. I don't know, Kurt, what you did to get it back. But this is the picture of after he got it back, and look at his hand, holding Kurt's hand, and like it's his safe place. That melted my heart. I don't know. Those kids were trying to take his fidget spinner. So he's trusting Kurt there and hanging out with Kurt. So. And then there's the little neighborhood boy who was all over the place always. There he is again. So then last week we started saying, okay, what our thought of a missionary going into this is, you think of a missionary who lives, as far away, that they're there to share the gospel, and so they must be preaching a lot. And you think about how much you're using the Bible and going in, but it's not just that. You're a missionary through your actions. And so these are the two Cray brothers that have been very involved in missionaries in Latin America. So we do lots of offerings at St. Paul's, and sometimes those go over to help with whichever fund they need at that moment. Yeah, which one? Siobhan stayed with them, right? Yeah. They look a little bit older now. It's an older picture. And you have several pictures of her there, and she could talk about all the things she experienced. Yeah, Siobhan stayed there for, 5 months, 6 months, almost. So this is, again, the Lohmeyers up here are no longer involved in that, but so many different parts. The Fritsch family, coming, and Danelle is the one we talk about. So Danelle has been there for many, many years, and watching her, she's the one that had to make up the devotion on the fly. Super good with the kids, super good connecting between the government and the non-government, the Lutheran Church and the government run. So anything to add about missionaries?
Siobhan did talk about how that whole group came together as a cohesive family type group. There was a real supportive type situation.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, you weren't just there alone. They were in and out of each other's homes, back and forth.
When we first started thinking about what sort of a presentation are we going to do when we did the presentation last fall, and then even with the Bible study now, the one thing that kept coming into my head, and I don't have the Photoshop skills to be able to actually make this work right, so but it's pieces of a puzzle. So I wanted to have a graphic that had broken up into pieces, and they each had the different people that we met down there, and then how they all come together. But the Crays, two brothers, they're both pastors. So they went to seminary, they're pastors, and they got calling to go down and help out the Dominican Republic. They're doing great things.
He's actually the communications specialist for the whole Latin America, is that what you were going to help into? Sorry.
I wasn't, but yes, he's good.
All of Latin America, so so he does lots of things all over, right?
Yep. And then, but then you've got Danelle here, who's this farm girl from South Dakota or something, right? And she wound up having a passion for people with disabilities, and wound up down in the Dominican Republic, and is, just, it's amazing what a difference that she's making down there for, that God is making through her, and how, how this simple farm girl, wound up in the Dominican Republic and is making all this difference.
And these two are church planters.
Yep, church planters, I forget where they're from, but, but again, he's a pastor, right? Yeah. Lower right corner, another pastor that's there now. He was in, I think it was Scotland. That's where he's from, and somehow, God said, you're not in Scotland anymore. You're now moving to the Dominican Republic, and you're going to do great things down there. Bill is, another kind of, he's a missionary. What he is like a project manager. He's not a pastor. He's a missionary. He's a project manager. He's a engineer in the sense of like building engineer. If you need something fixed, as long as Bill has a toothpick and a piece of string, it's going to get fixed for you. And, the things that he can do to keep things running and keep things moving, and he was in charge of the expansion of the facility and all those sorts of things, and how he wound up there.
So when we came there, Jamie Lynn had just showed up not too long ago, and she had just completed her training, so that you're doing some massive language study and some culture study to prepare, but she's got the health perspective. So then you think, okay, she's down there to care and give emotional support, physical, anything with health. But you think about how hard it is as a missionary, what you experience, and emotionally too. She's there for support, all different sorts of health capacity, and I didn't think about that until she started talking about it.
Yeah. Just to be clear, she does do some help with the people that are down there, the Dominicans that are down there. But her primary responsibility is to the missionaries. Make sure that you're healthy. Make sure that you are, getting proper rest. Make sure that you have the emotional support that you need. And also, it needs to be said loudly, Valpo grad, there you go.
And then the Warrens on the left came from Las Vegas, which was interesting because now he's a regional business manager. He used to manage Caesar's Palace or something.
Yeah, he was like the business manager at some casino, and now he's the business manager for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, Latin America, Caribbean area, area.
And just so how God uses different talents is what the point of that is. And I think, Kurt, we should talk about here how when we used to think, before going to the Dominican, sometimes you have a missionary Sunday and there's an offering that, there's okay, give an offering at the door on your way out. We have a different look at that. Especially from when we raised funds and how people were so generous to help us go to this, we were only there 8 days. For somebody that's their job, we thought, oh, well, there's got to be some help supporting, you get some sort of salary, some sort of a funding here, something. They have to raise it all. So when they say they're home for their 2 week or their 2 month, they're home for 2 months. Okay, you'll get to go home and see your family. They're working to raise their next amount of money so they can be there another 6 months. They're going from church to church and doing their talk to stay, and that's how they're getting their funding. So it kind of made us think, wow, when that offering plate goes around, like, this is something that's good work, and they're really struggling, they're really trying to make it happen.
Yeah, so part of, we found out that we thought why we were going down there was for down there, and in a lot of ways, it certainly was, but almost a bigger thing is why we went down there is so to come back here, and tell people about the amazing work that God's doing through these people, how He's bringing people with all these different talents from all across the globe, putting them together in this team that's just doing great things. But then also that, if you take 2 things away from this Bible study, the first thing should be, of course, go and be a servant somewhere, somehow. But then the other thing is, if you take away anything else, if you don't have 20 bucks in your wallet right now, go home, find 20 bucks, put it in your wallet. And then that next time a missionary comes to St. Paul's, there it is. Don't spend it for anything else, leave it there until they come. And if you don't have a 20, then put a 50 in there. You know, and because, you know, these people are really doing, you know, God's work in an amazing way, and you know, if they raise enough money when they come here for Sunday, then maybe next Sunday they can stay home.
Okay, that's some family time. Did you want to talk about her and all before we move on to the last part?
Marisol?
Yeah,
Sure.
because you have that kind of figured out,
Yeah,
the way
well.
she is, the connecting piece between.
Yeah, so this lady here is Marisol, and she's, you know, a Dominican. She's born and raised and lives down there and stuff. She has worked with the disabled inside the constructs of the government. So she's been part of that. And so when LCNS got down there, somehow we found her. Any clue how that somehow happened? Started talking and saying, okay, tell us, you know, teach us the ropes. How do things happen here, and how can we change things and so forth? And she helped out immensely and said, you know, well, here's what's going on, blah blah blah. But you have to understand that this is the culture here. This is how things are done. This is how the people all have the cultural attitude towards those with disabilities. This is how the government does things or doesn't do things, and this is the pace that stuff happens. And so it's great that you guys have this passion, and it's great that you guys want, but it's not going to change. You know, that's just kind of the way things are. And that was what, 6 years ago maybe? Well, probably 7, 8 years now, but and now she is the director of a building on one of the campuses of one of the government institutions, and that is changing the way they do things. And it's, you know, I guess you still wouldn't say it's good, right? But it's much better than it was, and it's moving. It's got a trajectory now. We're moving in the right direction and stuff.
She was telling us that story, and when her thinking 7 years ago, like, okay, that's great, you guys want to come in and do this, but it's not going to change. And then she said, I was wrong. There has been change, and she's instrumental as a pivotal person. She has the power, being a Dominican that has been in the government, to be able to sway just a little here. It takes time, but it's changing, and so that was really good to see. So super, you know, motivating, and she's a great woman, and the kids just respond so well to her.
Yeah. And when you talk about, you know, preparation, and you talk about, you said, you know, you're not going down there to fix things. Well, in this case, actually, you are, because it actually is, you know, that system is actually broken. But you can't just go down and say, okay, your system is broken, here, I'm going to, you know, you have to build those relationships. And yeah, it takes a long time. And so we have a relationship with Marisol. She has the relationship with the government. And so slowly, there builds up a level of trust, there builds up a level of access. There, you know, and you start small. You start with one building with 6 people in it, and you say, okay, here's what it looks like, and yeah, come inspect us, and, you know, come and see what's happening. And now let's take that model and let's keep building and building.
So I'm just showing a couple of the planning behind the scenes pictures. This is part of the what do you call that building, Kurt? It's where the Mercy Center, but there's a school, and it's where the seminary students now learn. Pastor O'Donnell has pictures. He was just there in September, and Carrie, or I guess him and Adam Tanny were also there in February. So they were in this room. This is the room they were planning in. And then going into, this is not a picture when we were there. It looks to be Palm Sunday from the picture, but I thought that was a neat picture of the church. So we he had 2 different times to go to church, a couple different times, and so we went to one downtown shoot, I forgot the name of the little place. That's it. Yeah. So a small little church downtown, and I was thinking about too how things work with the missionaries too. This group home that's right in this kind of a rundown, not so great neighborhood. You know, it's poverty, and so where that church is, it's a mission to the neighbors. So these 6 individuals that are now living in this group home, they're sharing the love of Christ to the neighbors as well. So that's awesome. So having some meals together, that was a big old plate of rice for everybody. That's like supposed to be one person's rice, I don't know, but then we shared it all.
We thought it was going to be a shared thing, and then he just kept bringing it.
That's a lot of rice. And so through the music too, this is some of the church services that we attended. What I thought was touching, it was just a short story, so there's an altar up here, and the Frances, one of the guys, doesn't speak much, he just kind of motions and mumbles, but you can communicate to him through your motions. So he sat down next to me, and it was time for the offering, and he kept hitting me on the arm and pointing down at my pocket, like I'm supposed to put some offering in there. He kept hitting me on the arm and pointing, so I'm like, okay, I guess I have some money in here. So I gave him, I don't know how much I gave him, it was a bill. And so he was super excited because then he collected the offering. So he was in charge of that. And then, of course, it was American money. And so, you know, at the very end, I guess he was in charge of taking that basket and giving it to the person who would put it away. Well, then he grabbed me by the arm at the end of the service and dragged me up by the basket so that he could go, and he went and he pointed to him and I, he pointed, and then he pointed to that money in the basket. And he pointed, and then he pointed. So it's a connection. So you have connections with the people. You don't have to speak the language. You have a lot of connections. So this was a school in Lise, and we got to tour it, but they have built a new facility. So when Siobhan was there, she saw this, and that's when Pastor O'Donnell, I think, went for the dedication in the fall of last year. So we got to see the spot where it was groundbreaking, and then some of the funds, and I knew some of our mission funds that we give went for this new building. So this is a mission. It's like St. Paul's School is a mission in our church, in our community. That's what this is. So that's awesome. That's like, you know, kids from you know, you have to pay money to come to this Lutheran school, but it's a mission. And so there's an example of some of the people learning in this school, some of the kids in their uniforms. One of the other touching things we were able to do, and this was special for us because not everybody gets to do this, but Danelle took us to a neighborhood, to a house, a couple of houses. We got to visit with the kids. What happens to the special needs kids that don't have any place to go, that their parents are trying to just help them? If you have someone with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. And so we got to go to this house. It was very humbling, and you know, we were trying to be very conscious and careful. Like, these are small houses. What did it have? One little kitchen-ish thing, and
yeah, it was a 2-room house, the one that we got to go into, and probably if you look at the post right here by there to the wall. Okay, so there's your 1 room, that's your 2 rooms. That's actually probably a little bit big. But 1 room was the bedroom, and the other room was the other room. And the bedroom
wasn't a bathroom.
No bathroom. The bedroom had the washing machine in it, no dryer. They were fortunate, I guess, to have a washing machine and stuff. Roger was a retired electrician, and had to just sort of put your arm around him and go, okay, it's just breathe, Roger, just breathe, because there's like bare wire running across the ceiling, and I mean, you know, talk about code violations. The whole thing was a code violation, but it's what they had, and they had light most of the day when there was electricity in the area. There was rolling brownouts and blackouts and stuff all the time.
So Danelle goes in and carefully, you know, at the right time and place, you know, is able to make some home visits and share the love of Jesus with those people. So Kurt brought his ukulele and Pastor brought a guitar, and we prepared some music for the orphanages, and we also used it for our devotions. I'm going to speed up Kurt because there's a couple things at the end here. This is the government run. We were able to get a few pictures from Danelle. We weren't supposed to take our own, but she
Do
took
that
them.
next week.
Yeah, but we're not going to do this. So this is the cribs and all the beds so perfectly organized, like a hospital looking thing. They had uniforms, so we were able to go in there and just hang out with the kids in the government run orphanages.
One thing that somebody made an observation that I completely missed when I was there, but on the bus ride on the way back, I think it was, somebody said, you know, if you look and you go, well, I mean, maybe it's not that horrible, right? I mean, the kids all look clean and dressed, and the facility looks reasonably clean and stuff like that. But the difference is, in our home, there's two residents per room, so they have their own rooms that they share with another person, and the room has a closet in it, a small closet, but it's a closet, and they have their stuff in that closet. There is no their stuff here, you know. There is no closet. There is no personal possessions, right? Here's your bed. Here's your clothes. When the clothes get dirty, we'll take them and wash them and get you new clothes. But that's what you have. There is, you know, you don't have a game. You don't have a ball. You don't have, you know, a T-shirt that says, you know, whoever lost the World Series last year, and they have the T-shirts printed up already and sent them out. I mean, there's nothing that's yours if you live in one of these houses.
So we did make the comparisons, and then we talked about that at night with missionaries to say, see, you know, can you see the differences in what we're trying to do? So it was very clear to us. So as we wrap it up, I just was showing a couple of pictures here of, we were able to go out and see the beauty of the city. You know, downtown after church on a Sunday, we were able to just go and explore and see their monument for independence. You can see the city from here. Beautiful city. Somewhere over here is where we end up living, I guess, for the week. It just some beauty that we took away. We were also able to go to the beach with the kids. This was kind of fun. The kids thought this was cool. We didn't want to take a picture of them. We actually asked them, and they said no, so I tried to take one without them looking. Just wanted a culture picture of how they use their head to carry things. So we did have beach day. The kids were able to go, and so they told us as workers, they said, well, we'll give you a 1 day to go to the beach to relax. And it soon became clear to all of us that we were thinking, well, we don't want to be without the kids. Like, can the residents come? So we ended up making sure that it wasn't just us. I would feel guilty, like, okay, we're taking this day to the beach, and we're here to spend time with them. And so we got to all go, which was awesome. They don't get to go very often. And so
We were, and that's a typical thing, is if you go to one of these that you get a day, that's like, okay, so now here's all the work you did, now here's the reward, basically, right, for that. And so the plan was, for our beach day, we were going to go to one of the resort beaches where the tourists go, and you know what you think of if you've been on a cruise or something. You know, it's a resort beach, and we basically just, as a group, said, yeah, we're gonna ditch that plan. We're gonna go to a local beach because the kids can't go to the resort beach, so we're gonna go to a beach that they can go to, which, like Cheryl said, they never get to go. And you know, you talk about the, you know, are we part of the community? Is that house part of the community? And yeah, it is, because you know, everybody in the community knew that they were going to the beach that day, you know.
they came and they lined the vehicle. That vehicle that we came up in, that one, is that what we took?
That is what
That's
we
what we took. We crammed everybody in there, but
Everybody in
the
there.
neighbors were lining the streets as we were like celebrities. They were waving us on. And it was
One guy
like,
was going like this, you know.
And it was almost heartbreaking, that's why Kurt's tearing up along. It was heartbreaking to see that we couldn't take them all. We want you all to come to the beach, but we couldn't fit them all in there. So, you know, here we are, time spent together on the bus was precious. Was that the video?
No,
Yeah.
it's just cramping.
No, that's the video.
What it is.
Yeah, I don't know how to get the video. We're more than having a blast. And Randy's going very big bus.
It's the party bus.
So, that was just a sampling of us. So, you know, we got to see the fun part of things too, and it was a great trip, you know. And so, as we just end up here, and the kids were beautiful. And these are beautiful pictures of them in the water. They were thankful. We were so thankful for that time, that fun time, and we had fish. We were kind of unsure about that at first, and eyeballs and everything, but they cooked it all like that was good, and plantain, and Nathan was unsure of that, so he ate the plantain. So sea urchins and pretending we're Mickey Mouse here and having fun together. So it was precious. So we thank you, St. Paul's, for helping make that happen through your prayers and through your support financially. And next week then we'll just end with a little bit more about, I don't know, some other service things, and that'll be the end of it. I don't think Pastor O'Donnell's having a Bible study the 23rd, right? I think we're off for 2 weeks then, for the holidays. Okay? Good for now? I don't know, I didn't really end my service. I'm gonna just share with you real quickly at the end. Oh, yeah. That's a super Walmart store. It's like a super TM that you can get anything. And this is some of the cultural pictures I thought was funny, but climbing up to get a mango up above the house and delivering eggs. This is a bunch of eggs on the back of it. It's just the fun cultural things. We were trying to drive, and then cows are in the way, and you know, that kind of thing that you experience where you're.
So if you see that, back up one. If you see, so this is, you can't really tell that it's a dirt road here. And you can see a guardrail up here. Okay, so that's the highway. And so, basically you go down this a little ways, and then all of a sudden there's just like a ramp. And you can see sort of the angle there, and that's just dirt, gravel that goes up that short, steep thing, and then that's the highway. That's your on-ramp. So there's a lot of prayer in that country. Because it's just like, you sort of look up, I don't think anybody's going, all right, gun it, you know. We got the van with 30 people in it.